Hello, my name is Andre V and I'm the founder of Parcel Central. We are wrapping up 2025 and my today's guest is Mike Richmond. Hi Mike, how are you doing?
Good, thanks, Andre. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. The year is ending, and we all are in our industry. We are living through the peak season. That is the fastest or the most intense period, and you have your own additional caveat. Switch job some time ago. It's new for you. So how the peak season is treating you?
Yeah, you're right. So I was at a business called Doddle for 10 years in the kind of outer home space where we started a company that eventually sold to Blue Yonder, where I worked for a couple of years after that. But I left Doddle and Blue Yonder in November this year to join Royal Mail as the managing director of the consumer division there. So it's been a big change for me this year personally. Peak's been great, fascinating, like huge volumes through the network. And also, one of the interesting things is we, as the head office team, as the central employees at Royal Mail, also get out in the field at peak and go and help, help with deliveries. So, just today I've done 120 parcel deliveries. So we're properly hands-on, and it's super interesting to see what happens at the doorstep. Royal Mail and the UK is still a largely home delivery country, and so most of the deliveries I've been doing have been to the doorstep, and just seeing how that works, in the field, in reality, and who's there, who's not there, what happens when it's raining, how you leave parcels safe, what neighbours take, all that sort of stuff has been super interesting at peak. So yeah, it's been a really good 6 weeks since I started. Huge learning curve and enormous business with 140, 150,000 employees, but lots of exciting things happening at Royal Mail.
Yeah, absolutely. We briefly discussed before the recording about 2025 highlights, and then both agreed that the final decision of Royal Mail, sort of privatization or the deal that sealed this year, was a huge thing actually for the whole UK market. We sort of feel there is a new energy. The Royal Mail's activities in out of home, in lockers, in refurbishing those post boxes. It's not only good for the Royal Mail but for the whole market, as I see it from the distance.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I've seen more change in the UK in the last 12 months than in any other 12-month period. There's been the Impost Yodel deal, the consolidation there. There's been the change at Royal Mail. I think the benefit of going from being a, public business to being a private business is one, not only the capital that we then have access to grow, but also the kind of change in horizons, the ability to be slightly more long term. That those businesses that are public are always thinking about the next quarter's results, whereas as a private business, you have the ability to think probably more strategically and more long term about what the future might be. And so, our new shareholders been very keen that we really aggressively grow our ambitions in out of home. And that has been, really coming true this year for us. You mentioned the innovation around the kind of new format post boxes. It's been some amazing developments there. It's been great to see them go. There are over 1,000 of them now live on the British streets. We have 115,000 post boxes, and as I alluded to in my earlier point, that the UK is still, we use out of home to date predominantly for drop off. If you think about the totality of the Royal Mail drop off points, it's something like 140,000 points, of which 115,000 are post boxes, but then you have the relationship with the post office. We have also, one of the big developments this year has been our investment in Collect Plus. So we're now shareholder in Collect Plus, and have grown our network with them. We have grown our own locker network. We have grown our partnership of the locker network with Quadient. So loads of really interesting developments in our own business as we, at Royal Mail, 5 years ago, weren't a big proponent of out of home. The corporate message was around the doorstep and the fact we have these posties going to the street, and a service we offer called Parcel Collect, which is the ability for the postie to pick up your return or pick up your C2X shipment. But that's definitely changed in the last 5 years and accelerated really in the last 12, 24 months as we have changed that strategy. And now, I think we have a phenomenal opportunity to be at the forefront of the growth in that space over the next few years.
What is also interesting thing, I've been talking to many people, and they say that the hirings of Royal Mail are opening up this company, because traditionally Royal Mail has been quite a closed organization and not so collaborative, but now many other companies are feeling that, and it's also with you. You are a very open-minded and open person and business leader. So this openness also is definitely good for the.
Yeah, man, I can't. There are lots of people I've met in the last 6 weeks who I've been really impressed by. People, some of them have been at Royal Mail for a long time, but a lot of them have also been at Royal Mail for 12, 18 months. And so there is a change that is happening in the employee work base at Royal Mail, and a lot of energy in that team. I think it all kind of comes together. It's part of the investment, it's part of the Daniel Kretinsky acquisition, part of the same thing. I think one of the reasons I joined really was because I saw it as a moment of strategic opportunity for Royal Mail to capitalize on what it's made it great, right? It has a phenomenal brand in the UK. It has some unique selling points in terms of the network of the posties that we have, and it has now a shareholder who is, 100% focused on, on Royal Mail being the best in the market.
Absolutely, absolutely. But looking for a little bit wider on the UK market, the whole market is in fire. Actually, the
Yeah.
invoice is growing, every is growing. Parcel pending, Quadient doing their own thing. So it's really fascinating to see how 2 years ago this was one of the most traditional home delivery markets, and now this is in the forefront of the out of home and locker adoption. It's really
Yeah.
fascinating.
It is, and what's interesting, I think, kind of for the debate that you often front on LinkedIn and elsewhere is where the UK will get to from an out of home perspective, and we can't use out of home there, generically, specifically, where does it get to from a drop off perspective, and where does it get off from a delivery perspective? What markets do we model? You and I've been talking about this for a while in terms of the out-of-home space, and we launched Doddle back in 2014 as a business that was trying to change the consumer behavior towards out-of-home. So I've seen lots of changes and ups and downs. I think about 5 or 6 years ago, I did a webinar where we talked about those markets where there was low out-of-home adoption from a delivery perspective and very high out-of-home adoption so we looked at the Nordics, and particularly Norway and Sweden, where they have 70, 80, 90% of parcels delivered to out-of-home, and then the UK and other markets, maybe Spain, where there are like single-digit percentages of parcels delivered to out-of-home. And what I was saying in that debate at that time was we kind of almost thought there would be a normalization, right? Those with very high out-of-home delivery percentages would go down, and I think that still runs true for me. I think we will see a settlement. We'll see whether that's 20% of deliveries to out-of-home, 30, 40% of deliveries to out-of-home. I don't know what the number is, but that's what I see happening in the UK. It's definitely growing. Where it will settle is the thing that we as a business at Royal Mail are really focused on, kind of making our bets, making our plays, as we kind of want to kind of shape the market in that respect. It's not going to be a 90%. I don't think we'll ever get to the positions of some of the Eastern European markets, because of the infrastructure that a business like Royal Mail has. Like I said, I've been out doing deliveries on the streets, and the reception you get, the value of a home delivery, like as an out-of-home advocate and an out-of-home lover, I've been in this space for 10 years. I love the out-of-home space. I still get most of my parcels delivered to home. And I think I would do that even if there was a premium to pay. Whether that's 20p, 30p, 50p in the UK market, I would still do the same thing. And so this normalization and where we settle as an industry, as a market in the UK, is something we're continuing to debate. I think what's not for debate is that you need to have the best drop-off market. So we need to have, as Royal Mail, and we believe we do have, but we will continue to go the best drop-off market. So we have 11,000 post offices, we have 7 or 8,000 locations with Collect Plus, we have over 2,500 lockers, we have all of the post boxes. We're continuing to grow that to make sure that we have the best, most accessible network for consumers and small business shippers to drop their parcels into our network, because I don't think that's for debate, right? You need to have coverage, and that is, I think, in the UK market, still 80 or 90% of the parcels that touch an out-of-home location are doing so as a drop-off rather than as a delivery or a failed delivery.
But you are also personally, you are sort of very much return related, and you know that area very well. So I think that this is definitely one thing that is going to be determining the growth of out of home and especially lockers, because the returns is very hard to manage with home delivery anyway.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, so you're right. I've spent a lot of time in the return space, and one of the things I've been really interested this year is this kind of growth of drop boxes, right? So big fanfare made, and you've done some podcasts and some of your video sort of videos around the more recent drop boxes that were launched at Post Expo this year. That's an area that I am really interested to see how that develops, and there are loads of different versions of that, right? There's the traditional locker drop box. There is the lock Dropbox with the large container, which is kind of within one of the columns. But the thing I think is very interesting in that space is this kind of indoor standalone Dropbox option. I spent 5 years working on previously Doddle and then Blue Yonder's Dropbox solution, which I was very involved in the development of, and we saw how successful that could be with businesses like Amazon, where you could get hundreds of parcels a day in a Dropbox, and we can talk about some of the benefits of a Dropbox versus a locker if that's of interest. I think they have a huge place in the market. I think they will be a big development for 2026 onwards as businesses, including maybe Royal Mail, look to make some investments in that kind of indoor Dropbox space.
One more interesting thing why I'm extremely interested in UK and especially London situation is the topic of locations, because this is the wider topic in the industry in every country: locations and UK is very traditional, very old, very filled with the buildings. So
Yeah.
if somewhere is a shortage of location, then this is UK. So I'm really eager to see how you guys are solving this location problem for
Yeah.
especially lockers needed.
It's not easy, right? Lockers are very hard to fit and site. It's not actually my area. There's a whole team under Jack Clarkson who run that at Royal Mail in terms of our locker locations and our locker growth strategy. But I understand how difficult it is, and it's fraught with planning and cost of rental and infrastructure costs of footings and deployment costs and all that sort of stuff. And as you say, like areas in London, central London, where there is the highest demand, are also the hardest places to find and site lockers. I think that's partly why I think I'm big on the the kind of growth of drop boxes. Because I think you can put them
Yeah.
indoors, right? You put them in supermarkets. You can stick them without any real infrastructure costs. You pay to move them into the store and you put them into a plug. They go indoors rather than outdoors, so you don't need to worry about theft in the same way. You also don't need to worry about things like labels, the replacement of labels and capacity management in the same way as you do an outdoor locker, because that role is performed by the store colleague who are working with you. So I think we will see. Again, our strategy at Royal Mail is mixed, right? We have not mixed is what's the right word? To have different solutions to suit different customers. So we still see a huge role for the post office in our partnership. It's a traditional 400 or 500 year partnership. I don't know the exact number, but it's super, where the post office is still like it's a perfect parcel shop, and they are, we're joined at the hip with the post office because they have these locations which are brilliant at taking parcels. But alongside that, you then have Collect Plus, which is more local and has slightly lower capacity. We have a locker strategy, but they're hard to site. So you need to have these different solutions for different locations in the market to provide the right coverage in the right locations with the right capability to build that network that we know both our consumers, but also the big marketplaces we work with. That's my area as the MD of consumer. I really focus on those two worlds. Like, how do we make it super easy for consumers to drop a parcel into our network, and for the sellers of our marketplace customers like Vinted and eBay and others to drop parcels into networks too?
This is absolutely fascinating area, because I believe that this C2C or customer to customer is going to be the core business for special out of home networks, and really I'm passionate seeing what Vinted is doing there, and not only all the second hand markets. In every market there are big players on that. So this is one interesting thing to figure to look for the C2C market growth.
Yeah, and I've really seen that enormously since joining because you know the numbers you wanted to see from the outside you can suddenly see when you become on the inside, so you can dig into what the volumes are and what the market shares are and how much volume. One of the things I've been blown away by is eBay, and I maybe had a more traditional view of eBay. It's more legacy business. It's been around for maybe 30 35 years even, and I thought of it as more a legacy player. But if you look at the eBay share price, it's doubled in the last 18 months from a big number to a huge number. And so eBay is not the kind of the old kind of antiquated business. It's actually at the forefront of re-commerce too. And so I think re-commerce, as you say, is huge and going to keep growing. But I think those two will continue to be the spearheads, but many others will start to follow in that space. We haven't seen Facebook Marketplace really get into the shipping space. What happens if they do that? Facebook Marketplace is still a huge business for super hyper local transactions where people are selling stuff. But if they want to get into the shipping space, what does that do? What happens with TikTok Shop and the growth of TikTok Shop and the democratization of sales on social channels like that? And so it's been, I think it's of all the spaces that we see really active consumer behavior change, the marketplace is the hottest.
I was extremely fascinated with Bpost launch of their new consumer concept. They opened a few weeks ago in Belgium. What was the most interesting thing was that they stepped 2 steps ahead of the e-commerce delivery and also enabled in their new concept all other handover situations and not only parcel related things, because I believe that in the future, especially lockers and out of home is going to be part of the infrastructure, and not only for the e-commerce but also other things like rentals and other
Yeah.
services, and that's why what is your strategy on that? Is it on the table already, or you are still right now yet concentrating on e-commerce?
I'm probably too new to give a strong view in terms of what the strategy is in that space. At a principle level, we at Raw Mail, and I totally believe we need to make sure that we consider all adjacent revenue streams. So there are lots of adjacencies, and that's, we all know that parcel margins and running parcel business isn't one of software sales margins. It's not, you're not operating at 70 or 80% margin. You're operating at single digit margins, and that's the industry we're in. So if there are things that you are uniquely positioned to support because of the infrastructure you have, be that lockers or be that visibility of consumer data, visibility of location data, visibility of, I can't even remember who it was I saw doing some, I think it might have been Geopost, doing some stuff around their vehicle data, and so I think that is a reflection, which is mapping and routing and, a kind of a Google Maps type routing algorithm based on what they see amongst their hundreds of thousands of drivers. There is going to be lots of carriers, I believe, and Royal Mail will be one of them, who will continue to look at those adjacent revenue streams to support which you get the ability to play in as a result of your incredible scale, the reputation of your brand, your technological sophistication, all those different things.
So let's look briefly also to next year, and what are you are looking for from the next year? Is it from technology perspective or your product development inside the company? So how do you see next year as a whole? We are still in the growing market. Nothing is changed there. We need additional capacity.
Yeah. I think the UK is on a more stable footing from a kind of inflation and a global market. It'd be lovely to rejoin the EU, but I'm not sure that's happening anytime soon. I see us both wearing the colours of Ukraine nicely alongside each other here, but we're not doing that anytime soon. But I think the UK is in a more stable place economically. I think we don't see any dramatic changes in terms of e-commerce spending, and we'll see continued growth, but not like, you never know what might happen, right? But I don't see any major changes there. I think for Raw Mail, we'll see continued aggressive growth in the out-of-home space. We are admittedly later than others in this space to the UK market. Later to really focus on it from a proposition perspective. As I said, we have 25,000 traditional PUDOs and 115,000 post boxes. We have an incredible network, arguably the biggest in the UK. And so we already have a great label, but I think how we think about the proposition and how we use that proposition, both in our customer conversations, but also technologically in the way we use it, communicating with consumers and allow them ability to interact with those locations and customer journeys and divert and that sort of thing. I think we'll invest significantly in the out-of-home network in the round. And I think that probably links into another thing which I've been working on quite a lot since I joined Royal Mail, but I think is also a huge area for growth for us is that technological innovation. We have amazing resources, and I think we have the ability to really, make some minor changes in our kind of the way we think about the product structure and the kind of technology organization, the commercial and technology teams working together to really drive some pretty incredible growth for our proposition to consumers and our retail customers too.
Absolutely. But Mike, we have to wrap it up already. The discussion here, we could definitely talk another hour, but let's say we have to wrap it up as the year is ending. The discussion here is ending. So I'm really happy for you for your in your new assignment. I really wish you good luck for the next year, and in closer perspective, have a nice Christmas, Mike.
Thanks, Andre, and I hope you keep putting out the great content you keep putting out, and have a great Christmas too.